Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the High and Live podcast. This is High and Live podcast number 6 with me, Josh, Kenzo, Parker, and we got somebody in the hot seat today, and that is Rylee. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. How about you, Kenzo?
Doing excellent.
How about you, Parker?
Yeah, it's another good day for me. Thanks for asking.
Big energy.
Big energy.
Okay, before moving forward, you can follow us on all our platforms, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we do a lot of travel videos and travel-related stuff. And you can leave us a voice message on Anchor by getting the app on your phone. We're doing this again today. We're going to be giving away a $100 gift card to our merch store. Somebody left a voicemail for us.
Whoever that was. I love them, by the way. They gave me a shout-out. Very nice.
So, leave a voice message on the Anchor app, and you will get the first one.
The first one,
yeah. The first one to do it on this episode regarding this topic or whatever, you'll get a $100 gift card.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Any topic, make one up.
What else do we have to go through? Any back end stuff? Oh, yeah. Shout out to Ben running the show from behind the cameras.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Nailing it.
Shout out to Justice. He's sitting there. I don't think he can hear us. Oh, he can. Okay, sweet. Hi. And shout out to our friend from Albuquerque.
What up, baby?
Matt. Woo. All right, we got 3 people in the audience.
Yeah, that's
today.
Literally everybody in the audience right now.
Yeah, we should have
super
more.
exciting.
We should have more people in. That'd be awesome.
Well,
Come on down.
I'm not even going to get into timing-wise, but great.
Okay. All right. So today we have a very special guest. Her name's Rylee Spavak. Is it?
Spivak.
Spivak? Oh, man, I messed it up. Okay.
Just cut.
No.
Just kidding.
She is a former employee of the Vancouver Aquarium, right? And now she works as an animal caretaker with the Greater Vancouver Zoo. And I just want to point out that her views are of her own and do not reflect her employers or anybody that she's worked for in the past. And today we are going to be talking about a bunch of stuff related to animals.
Animal video.
And traveling as well.
Cue the puppy montage.
So, yeah. Where do we start here? Like, I find that animals and traveling and getting the pictures with animals has become like a huge thing. And there are always like discussions about should you be, taking photos with elephants or riding them, or should you be swimming with dolphins and stuff like that. So we decided to bring somebody from who has more experience with animals into the studio today, and we are just going to ask you a ton of questions, and you are going to help educate us and tell us what you think is right or wrong.
Are you ready to get into an argument, Parker?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just going to jump into it, and Parker, you can take the lead on this one. What did you do that's going to get you into an argument with her?
I didn't actually want to go into that, but... All right, so recently I was in Thailand, and now I saw on the brochure at the villa that I was staying at that you could go do a river trek with elephants, and then after you could bathe them. And that was exactly what I wanted to do with my girlfriend, Jackie, and she hadn't even seen elephants before. And we know, like, don't ride the elephants. A lot of the places treat them inhumanely, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the pictures on the brochure showed a picture of a guy standing beside an elephant without any kind of harness or anything, and they were walking down river. And so there was absolutely no indication that there would be like harnesses and stuff on the elephants. And so we signed up for the half day just to go and bathe them and hang out with them because that looks awesome. And we've seen YouTube videos of people doing that at sanctuaries and stuff. And we really wanted to be a part of something like that. We think elephants are awesome, beautiful, majestic creatures. And we want to be around them as much as we can because we certainly don't have them here. Now, unfortunately, when we got there, they had 2 elephants show up wearing the saddle on their backs to carry 2 people around.
Describe these saddles. What do they look like?
It was probably just like a little metal bench, pretty only big enough to carry 2 people, and then it was tied around the elephant, and it had like several mats between the bench and the elephant's back, a cushioning, support of some sort or whatever. And it, right off the bat, we were kind of like, well, this isn't what we were looking for. This kind of sucks. I don't really want to support this kind of thing. And, I obviously can't post anything online about this because, it's 2018. People are going to rip me apart for supporting something like this. But realistically, I didn't know that was, it was sort of false advertising.
It was
when
like a
we went.
bait and switch kind of situation.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Anyways, and like there's other people, the people that run the place, they've got their explanations and defenses for it, why it's not so bad, So the big ones that get brought up is, an elephant's back can support this weight really easily, and they're used to pulling logs and stuff for hours a day as work elephants and stuff, and this is the kind of thing that they do, and for them to carry 2 humans on their back of regular size is really not such a big deal. It's very distracting having this thing whooping around in the background, but. And then, it's padded, and, and then an argument to that would be, well, the elephant's back isn't made for carrying people around. Like, that's not what they're for. And then they would counter with, yeah, well, human backs aren't made to carry backpacks around,
right,
but
yeah.
yet they're really helpful for carrying things around with a lot of weight that you can carry around for a long time. And if it's cushioned like backpacks are, it's really not that bad with your straps. So these are the things that they talk about. And like, I want to say for the record, I don't support that. And I didn't want to go to a place that you actually ride the elephants like that. I think maybe if you rode them just bareback, I might have been more inclined, been like, that's probably okay. But even then, that's a topic of controversy. So This is where Rylee comes in, I guess, here. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Well,
at least in terms of like riding them bareback, is like one person at a time. Is that okay?
I'm just going to interject and go,
Okay.
Uh-oh.
we're humans, so we can actually think and do things for ourselves.
Okay.
So yes, it is our decision if we want to wear a backpack on our backs, and we can make that conscious decision where an elephant cannot. It is being subjected to something like that. It's not deciding whether or not it wants to do that. We're making that decision for them. So it is a big thing. In any instance, when you go to Thailand, Sri Lanka, Bali, wherever you want to go, that has elephants, just keep in mind that it's unnecessary to ride an elephant. You don't need to ride it. It doesn't benefit the animal, no matter how many bananas you give it. The only thing it's benefiting is you as a human and checking it off your bucket list. It's something you want to do. There are plenty of sanctuaries where you can actually bathe them, feed them, give them snacks, walk with them, give them exercise. But when it comes to physically riding an elephant, and it doesn't just have to be an elephant, it can be swimming with captive dolphins, or even riding camels in Morocco. Same thing. It's a little bit different with camels, though, because dromedaries are actually a domesticated species compared to an endangered wild elephant.
Sorry, can you explain for the people / me what a dromedar is?
So a dromedary camel is a camel with one hump. Just one.
Nice.
So what about 2?
That's a Bactrian camel. They're actually from Mongolia, and there's domesticated species that you would see that they would use for packing, and then there's actually a completely different genetic line, Bactrian, that is critically endangered. That is a wild species of camel.
And what are the camels that have more than 2 humps? Because I know for a fact Sally the camel had 5 humps. So
she?
ride, Sally, ride. Dum, 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 dum. Anybody?
Oh my God.
Okay, sorry. Now, I also want to know about horses, riding a horse.
Here we go.
Is that okay or no?
So the difference between, if you read my notes, you're going to have a domesticated and a wild species.
Right.
So horses have been domesticated for thousands and thousands of years.
Okay.
We've used them for agriculture. We've used them for war. We've used them for almost anything that you can think of prior to vehicles. Elephants, yes, you can use them for agriculture. It's different for somebody who would have that in a different part of the world where horses aren't exactly used. But that being said, the whole riding thing's a different situation.
So now why can you use an elephant for agriculture? Because they wouldn't do that on their own accord. That would be something that a human has made them do.
That is true, but like if you have a landowner that has an elephant and has just raised elephants their entire life, and they're used for plowing or they're used for pulling logs.
So if it's in the family.
It's not, no. It's different. That's the way they were brought up. It also, it's super controversial topic about even like the Yulin dog meat market.
Yeah.
Being a first world country, it is wrong to us to think of that because dogs are man's best friend. But there, it's culturally appropriate. That's what they've been doing for hundreds of years. That's like a subject to like a food source for them. So
Right.
it just really depends on where you're going and like where you're coming from.
And it's also when you look at the elephant thing, it's the bigger context is that maybe these elephants at these so-called sanctuaries or whatever, these resorts or whatever, or attractions, they are not treated well.
Yeah.
That's probably a big part of why people think it's controversial to do that.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that too.
They're definitely held against their will.
Like the trainers or whatever have like a pickaxe sometimes. It's like, well, what's that for? It looks awful.
Yeah.
Well, they've got thick skin, so you need. It's like, what?
Yeah, not so sure.
It's called a bullhook, and
bullhook.
it's used in the most sensitive part of the elephant, usually behind the legs or in the armpit area. It keeps them to move forward. It is not something you would see practiced in
Keep moving forward.
more modern, less Neanderthalic times like Canada and the US. There are actually over 2,900 captive elephants used at sanctuaries or riding facilities or tourism facilities throughout Asia, Thailand being the highest population. And yes, they are usually kept in deplorable, awful situations where when they're not being ridden or walked through the jungle with multiple people daily, then they're usually chained together at a very small distance so they don't hurt each other, which they would in a frustrating situation, kept in concrete stalls, usually malnourished a lot of the time because they're not given like what they need for their dietary needs. If they fall ill, become sick, their veterinary care is usually slim to none, and they're usually just put down if they look bad.
Yeah,
So
that's always the thing that I've kind of struggled with, and I think it's the same what Parker's experience is, that kind of false advertising is nowadays. I think it's so hard to differentiate. You know, maybe once you arrive and you see it for yourself, you can understand it better. But before you go, or if you're doing research online before you do a trip, like when they call it a sanctuary, is it actually a sanctuary? What check marks does it need? Because I know a lot of places in the past were probably places that were not sanctuaries. They were zoos or places where animals were brought in against their will and kept there against their will for, entertainment or tourism or whatever it might be. But because now that's got a bad reputation, a lot of these places are now being like, oh, no, we're a sanctuary now. So I think it's really tricky nowadays, especially for, us or even other people, to be able to differentiate and then identify, okay, is this something I should support because it's actually kind of helping to a certain degree with, whether it be the preservation, because I know a lot of these animals, like I've been one in the past where they're like, this might seem bad to you, but if these were in the wild, they would have been poached already. So in some essence, this actually is good, and you supporting this helps, although there's still some negative, the positives kind of outweigh the negative is what they were trying to convey. And I did kind of get that feel as well. But I think for most people, it is hard to know nowadays, is that a sanctuary or is that just being called a sanctuary? And how do I, differentiate those two?
Yeah, educate us and educate the viewers.
Yeah, there is a fine line. So, for instance, you could call a a zoo facility a sanctuary to a degree, depending on where their animals have come from. When it comes to, if you want to see elephants, great. Educate yourself, know before you go, Google reviews, talk to other people that have gone. I have a whole list of elephant sanctuaries in Thailand that are actually super reputable. You don't ride them. It is you going, having lunch yourself, having lunch with the elephants, bathing them, social interaction, which is great for elephants. Are super intelligent without doing something that would necessarily cause them harm or discomfort. When it comes to a sanctuary versus something that they're just calling themselves a sanctuary because it's a more attractive word, would be, where did the elephants, for instance, that you're going to see, where did they come from? Were they born there? Were they brought from another place called a sanctuary? Were they taken from the wild? So know before you go. Ask questions. Like, the best thing you can get is answers when it comes to that.
Do you think reviews online help with differentiating which ones you should and shouldn't go to?
I do. And even people that you talk to, now that Parker has gone to one and you can say you've gone to one, people will be like, how was it? You'd be like, don't go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's
so it's the same thing, just through connections, through people.
Right.
The World Animal Protection Agency actually has a great list for places, especially elephants, where they recommend that you go versus ones that you avoid. A big controversy topic was actually Tiger Temple that was shut down a few years ago. But I
Were
did
they sedated?
know. Yeah,
Oh,
but
damn.
most big cats, regardless if they're tigers or lions, cub-wise, are sedated, which is sad. But I did know somebody that went there, and he said he had a great time. But how could you not with a bunch of baby tigers?
Yeah.
But it's, again, what's best for the animal. There are more big cats, especially lions, tigers, jaguars, anything endangered in captivity, bred in captivity, taken from the wild for captivity, than in the wild now.
That's crazy.
So
Is that supposed to be like some sort of how do you say it? Is that supposed to be like a conservational thing where you're like, oh, we need to breed them in captivities to keep their numbers up?
So I'll talk a little bit about the Species Survival Plan. We are a proud member of CASA at the Greater Vancouver Zoo, and the Species Survival Plan is actually a program that any accredited zoo or facility, so ASA, WASA, SADA, yeah, hilarious. Anybody that's accredited is a part of this online database where if we are to breed something, say for instance, African elephants, where we have a very small captive population, or jaguars or Bengal tigers, we don't just want to breed. We want to make sure that we maintain a healthy genetic line within the facility, within all facilities, so we don't have inbreeding or animals that we have a female that has cancer and then she passes down that genetic line. We don't want that because we don't want to have to take from the wild ever. A lot of places stopped doing that in the late 90s, and we want to follow that. We shouldn't have to be taking from wild populations.
Right.
So
I was going to ask you, Parker, when you found out you were being baited and switched, how did other people around you react to that?
What do you mean, other people around me?
Like, other people that went? Did
There's
you?
nobody else there.
Okay.
There were two other ladies.
Yeah.
Like foreigners to Thailand as well, but I think they were Chinese, and we didn't really chat with them. I don't know. We shared in feeding them bananas, but that's about the closest I got to those ladies. So I didn't talk to anybody else about it. And like the place that, the villa that we signed up through, they really had nothing to do with it once we got into the car and headed out that way. So like everyone that was there were all staff of that location, and so they all obviously supported and would defend their practices.
So where do you guys stand now on elephant riding?
Elephant riding? I think it's one of those things where nowadays understanding just how rare they're in the wild, and at the end of the day, I've always kind of felt like they're not here for our amusement, and as much as you want to have that experience in that, it's just not necessary. Like you say, it's like, how many of us actually really need to ride an elephant? None of us do.
No.
We do it just for the sensation and just to say you rode an elephant. And because it is, in some ways, this pretty majestic spiritual experience where, you're interacting with something, but at the end of the day, that's not something that you need to do. And it's not benefiting them in any way, shape, or form to do that. So, I've kind of stand right now how I always did, which is that it's just not necessary. But
I think the best experience you can give yourself, and if you can, go to a safari, go see it in its wild habitat. It's mind-blowing.
Right.
having said that, I've seen them in Africa
Yeah,
out
that's
in the wild where you're just
amazing.
in a Jeep and you're looking at them from afar. And yeah, that was, I would say, even cooler than being able to, although touching them is cool. And we did do that in Bali when we were bathing them and touching them. And that was an experience. But seeing them in the wild, in their families, having their little babies run through the mom's legs, literally out in the, safaris was pretty incredible. I don't think you can compare with that.
How about you, Parker? What do you think?
Yeah. My favorite meme is one with like a bunch of humans on the back of a pickup truck that are caged in, and they go out into the middle of like wherever they are on safari, and like tigers and lions approach the cage to see the humans. Like that's how it should be done, right? Like I think that's pretty cool.
That's hilarious. I would say in my mind, even just after hearing you saying elephants don't consciously want to put like weight on their backs, I think that's definitely changed my mind, because in the past, I take sometimes a very contrarian kind of viewpoint, or like, yeah, what about horses, or what about this? Like, why do we let them ride, let people ride on them? Where elephants are huge friggin' animals. Why can't they just handle like two tiny people on them?
Well, I'm sure they could, but it's not like what they're kind of built for. Like,
Right.
yeah, they're strong, and I'm sure I could sit on its back, no problem. But the only thing it's benefiting is me. And
Yeah. I think in the future, what I would like to see is some sort of technology where we can interview the animals and ask them, like, "Hey, do you mind
Fuse
having
into their brain.
Yeah, fuse into their brain? Do you like having people on you?"
Yeah, you just have to inject a couple of things into the elephant's head, and then you can talk to them.
That's another ethical debate
right.
in like the 50
probably
years
gonna
from now.
grab you by it, like with its trunk and like shove bananas down your throat, Parker.
Oh.
I'd pay for that.
Yeah, that I would support.
Okay,
That I would support.
so let's close off the elephant discussion here, and let's move over to Kenzo. Kenzo, you had the opportunity to swim with humpback whales recently,
I did.
You
And-
pig.
and I was going to ask you, Rylee, like, so swimming with humpback whales, is that ethical?
You're just trying to stir up some
No,
stuff, aren't you?
come on, man. I gotta ask these questions. I
No,
gotta ask
yeah,
these
go ahead.
questions.
Kenzo, I heard from everybody that you made a really big splash every time you entered the water.
That wasn't me.
Scared
For the record,
humpback whales.
we have video evidence that wasn't me.
cannonball?
No, you
I'm
got to
coming
slip in
in.
gently, quietly. But yeah, so who's this question directed at? Is it me, or are we putting Rylee in the
Well,
hot spot first?
we're going to get a conversation going about if swimming with humpback whales is a good thing, or maybe it's a bad thing, or maybe it's just in the middle.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'll start this one off, seeing as I just experienced it for myself.
Yeah.
I think it's 100% a good thing. Like anything, there's certain protocol that needs to happen. For example, like the boats need to keep X amount of distance. They need to first assess the whales to see what kind of whales they are. I mean, where I went to do it in Tonga, they were mostly nursing moms with their babies. So some of them you don't get close to. They're resting. You want to give them their space, their time kind of just to relax. Whereas other ones are very interactive. They're playful, and they're you let them come to you on their terms, kind of thing. And for the most part, it's like giving them their space, making sure you don't get in their way, making sure you turn your boat engine off, and all these different protocols that don't affect kind of their natural habitat or whatever. From that, and then obviously keeping distance from them in the water, you realize that these things, they're not like scared of you. They're not worried about you. With one swoop of their tail or whatever, they can be gone.
Yeah.
But they actually stay there. They chill there. They don't mind you at all. And on most occasions, they actually kind of come up close to you. They're curious about what you are, and it's definitely some sort of interaction where you don't feel bad that you're being there. You're not riding them. You're not even touching them. You're just swimming alongside them, kind of just observing them. And I think like anyone that does that, they realize how incredible these animals are. They realize that, obviously old tales like Moby Dick and stuff is like whales are these killers and they're going to attack you. And you realize that they're not. They're so just majestic. And even when they are swimming alongside you, although they're massive, they are very spatially aware. Like you'll see them like sometimes putting their fin just like over your head or like right near your eye, but like, close enough that they know what's going on. And then on top of that, it's like the positives you get from having that kind of interaction, you then become like an ocean advocate. You then support, the protection of these whales. And then while you're, interacting with them, you can't help but learn a bit more about them. For example, the other people that are out there, they tell you about, the massive noise pollution from all the tankers and boats that are going around the world nowadays, which sometimes you don't really think of. You're like, that's just a boat. That's just something that brings me my Amazon products, but you don't realize that that is actually contributing to, messing with the migratory patterns of whales or just their communication and all that stuff. So you actually get educated, and you just take away a lot more than just the experience. Where, like I said, you kind of really just support protection of them and further education to other people that might have not had that experience. So.
Well, you covered that topic pretty well.
Okay, you win. Debate over. No. Yeah, Rylee.
I think that we'll just steer off of seeing any animal in its natural habitat is way better than seeing anything in captivity. The only thing I would say that we would be mindful of is that's great. Humpback whales are so cool. Bowhead whales are awesome. whale sharks, we just talked about this earlier. Those are super cool. But if you have every single person visiting that area and every single person going on that boat tour, how many boat tours is that? How many times are people going to get in the water? It eventually, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, if this continues to happen, there will be some sort of behavioral change in any situation. So it is like lasting impact. It just depends on what that is. For instance, if you are snorkeling, say off the Great Barrier Reef for scuba diving, that's awesome. It would be a great place to go. But if the same boat company takes the same boat out to the same spot every day for 15 years, there's going to be some change to that area.
Basically what's happened. And you look at the Great Barrier Reef now.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I actually worked on the Great Barrier Reef, and I literally saw like our same boat went out to the same reef, and our boat specifically had, I think it was 80 to 100 people occupancy. And that's a lot of people to go out on the reef and to be putting sunscreen on and going in the water. And that's just one boat. There was numerous boats going out every single day. And in a very quick amount of time from working there, I actually started feeling guilty. And eventually I was like, I can't, like, I mean, I quit my job. My kind of contract was over, but I was like, I feel like I'm doing more harm than good just because of like, I don't know, just seeing the reef. I was like, although it's beautiful, it's a fraction of what it used to be. And just the amount of people that, you know, they haven't quite figured out their buoyancy control, or they're, you know, they don't, maybe not as educated with like touching things. So I just remember like going home or just scratching my head on the boat being like, what the hell am I doing? I am actually killing the thing I love from trying to get people to fall in love with it too. And it was a very dilemma kind of thing. And that's, like you say, it's about that balance and about managing how much is enough, you know, having that regulation where it's like X amount of people, you know, maybe go to this area for a year and then nobody go to that area for a couple of years and go to that area. So there definitely needs to be that fine line of management and observation and just making sure that we don't, you know, offset that balance between positive and negative. So I agree 100%. And, you know, to kind of touch on that a little bit more is like, I've done whale shark tours in Western Australia where they have that down to a T. They have very, very few licenses. They have strict in-water like person policies and whatnot. And then I've also been in Mexico where they have basically no regulation or very loose regulation. And there's 100 people, like hundreds of boats, and you do feel like, okay, this needs a little bit more balance for it to be a positive more than a negative.
A lot of people are starting to take note of that kind of thing, though, too. Like in Ko-Pi or just off of Ko-Pi, there's that beach that everyone wants to go to because it was made famous from the movie The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio. They now shut it down a couple of months out of the year, every year. Because if not, then they would just have boats going in and out constantly. And the reefs there have like withered down to just about nothing. So now they close it off for a set number of months every year so that it can sort of get a little bit of time to A, not get so much strain from visitation, and B, hopefully rebuild a little bit as well. I did some diving in Koh Tao just recently, and they actually had placed and set up underwater structures off or like away from the reefs, because, you know, Koh Tao is one of the busiest dive spots in the world. So many people are going every year, every month even, that the same thing with the coral reefs. Coral's all withering away to nothing. And so they've built these structures away from these reefs so that it just basically directs people, instead of going there, they now go here to these new places where they can still see cool stuff. And they actually have started to transplant coral into that so that there's more coral and it's new, and they take it, like, I don't know, dying or injured coral from other places, and they put it here to like let it grow and rebuild and regenerate and stuff. And so that way they're just kind of dispersing the human like population activity and stuff. So it was really cool to go and do that and to know that what these people here are doing is like for a good cause and stuff. So that was kind of nice. But I mean, a lot of people are becoming a little bit more cognizant of it. I guess maybe not in Mexico so much, but
yeah, they're getting there. Honestly, and I actually know, I've met the guy that's kind of set up that, you know, whale shark sanctuary / like, you know, tourism kind of thing. And, you know, it's, although once again, when you go there and you see kind of the negatives, you see way too many people getting close. And sometimes, you know, depending on the guide, sometimes the guides are very good with like, stay away from the whale, don't touch them, blah, 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 giving all the rules to respect their behavior. Whereas I've done it quite a few times. And sometimes the the captain will just say literally nothing. He won't say anything about sunscreen, about this and that. So you imagine that on a daily basis, how many people are not getting that little bit of education, then it becomes pretty negative. But the initial person that set that up basically saved all these whales because they were getting finned and hunted like they would have been extinct. So at the end of the day, it's like, although you do have a lot of boats going out there, a lot of people swim with them, at least they're there. You know, that's one step in the right direction. And then the other regulation will come from that reflection of noticing, okay, this is done right, this needs some work, and this needs a bit more regulation. So it is, like you said, it's a bit of a process that ultimately will lead to the best thing, hopefully, but it does take a little bit of time sometimes.
Yeah.
Man, tourism ruins a lot of stuff, eh?
Humans.
Humans. We should just commit to not doing anything, really. I think that's that's my issue. Is like, I want to see like elephants, but it's apparently it's harmful to them, and why should I even bother going out to see them? You know, I feel like it's like a double-edged sword. Like, I want to see these animals so bad in their natural environment, but every step that I take, is probably like affects the environment. Like, I remember talking to somebody on the internet and talking about your trip. I was like, oh, my friend went to Tonga recently, and he from Canada. I said, my friend went from Canada all the way to Tonga to see these whales in their natural environment, and I don't think that's harmful. I said that, and this person said, oh yeah, what about the carbon footprint that your friend left taking all these planes? So
unfortunately, nothing we do nowadays doesn't have some sort of effect on nature and the environment or the things we love in the animals, like this iPad, everything we're using energy. But it's not to say that you can't do anything. You have to try to find that balance and offset the negatives with the positives. And I mean, obviously, we're moving at hyper speed, so it takes a while for us to figure things out. But I think as quickly as things have kind of gone awry, we're figuring things out pretty quickly, and there's a lot of people moving in the direction to actually make all these things a bit more sustainable. So just up to the average person to actually make that conscious effort and spend their dollars wisely and do things that aren't having a further effect. So I mean, we all have a vote at the end of the day, and it's like, yeah, you just got to be a bit more educated and a bit more aware of all that stuff. And I don't know.
So Rylee, if there was the choice to go between a wild safari type thing where you're watching animals in the wild versus something like going to a sanctuary like with elephants, which do you think is much less harmful, I guess, in the end, like in the big picture?
Well, if you're choosing a sanctuary or a rescue or anything like that, just do your research, because there's no harm in visiting a sanctuary or a rescue center, especially if it's for the right reasons. Usually places like that are in need of funding all the time.
It benefits them because they probably need the cash to help sustain it, because elephants, for example, are super expensive to maintain. They eat so much food and
But there's also a reason why safaris, especially in Africa, if you've ever looked to just book a trip, they're incredibly expensive. If they were affordable, everybody would be doing them, and I'm sure the impact would be much greater than it is. But most safari guides do stick to their trails. They know where the animals are kind of going to be, and they keep you quite safe comparingly. You don't just wander around and go look for a fully grown rhinoceros. But
that's a good point, though, to make those safaris a little more affordable. And
you mean less affordable?
Little more affordable.
Safaris are affordable?
No, they're not at all. But if they were more affordable, more people would support it, as opposed to go to a sanctuary or one of those captivity places.
And you got to put a lot of
spend $20 or $50.
So, and it's a lot of effort too to participate in safari. Is it?
A little more, but I think it's far worth it. I remember when we were there, we were camping, and it was like a caged kind of area where we were inside, but you could look outside the fence and see hyena eyes or hear lions roaring as you were sleeping. I was like, you can't get that at a zoo or whatever. That's just a really good experience. Well, yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, I
You
don't
can
know. I
spend the
don't know.
night
if
at the
you-
zoo.
All right, sleep over at the zoo. Let's go.
Do you guys remember that
Ben Stiller.
No, Ben Stiller.
Night at the museum.
No, that movie. There was a documentary, Grizzly Man.
Grizzly man. Yeah.
Oh,
Do you remember that one?
Grizzly
I
Adams.
never actually seen it.
This is a guy who had the ultimate safari experience. He lived.
Did he?
Well, he ended up.
Oh.
the ultimate experience. Oh,
Yeah, like he was up in the. I don't know where it was, but he was up in the wilderness just by
Pretty sure he
himself.
died.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't he
Yeah.
get to see the inside of a bear?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jesus.
No, he had the ultimate experience. He lived with bears by himself for like years. I think it was out of research or just like absolute love of bears. And then in the end, like
It's a sad ending. It's
It's a
actually
sad
a really
ending,
cool
yeah.
documentary.
Yeah.
A really cool documentary, but
I
I
think
don't know what to say about that whole thing, to be honest.
I have a question. When I watch Planet Earth or those kind of documentary shows about animals and stuff,
Attenborough.
I love David Attenborough, by the way. I think
Sire
I've
David.
mimicked David Attenborough's voice in like a number of High on Life videos in the past. But anyways, what I'm saying is I can't stand when I'm watching and I'm looking for animals hunting or like some wild cat in the snowy northlands of somewhere and they're just like, food is scarce. And like, if he doesn't find food now, it will die. And you're like, well, just give it some food then. You guys are sitting there filming it. Like, but you can't give it food, can you? Because...
I've always had that same thought too, and I don't know the answer.
Or like,
I mean,
this baby polar bear cub has been separated from its mom. It's like, well, go put
and
it
they're
back.
filming the mom. They know where the
The
mom
mom
is.
is all sad and the
Yeah.
baby's lost. And like, "Wah," like, where are you? And they won't. They don't interfere because we're not
Yeah.
supposed to interfere with the animals.
Would you get the same feeling if we interfered?
No, I want us to interfere and make them happy again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but would you understand that happens on like a daily basis?
I do understand, but like,
But
if
would you if we interfered?
would I understand that us interfering happens on a daily basis?
No, like would you get the same feeling of like that is so sad that like, oh, the iceberg split in two and now they're separated, rather than like, I'm gonna go pick you up and take you over here and now everything's okay.
Well,
Because it happens.
well, they
when we're
could
not
film
filming.
it and get us to have that feeling, and
But
then
it
after
happens
it's
when
like
we're not
cut.
filming. It still happens.
You're right. It does happen.
True.
But if
that's just
you
another.
if you could prevent it from happening a couple times, wouldn't it be worth it for that family?
Yeah. Isn't that a kind of positive
You
intervention?
should ask David
this is
Attenborough.
well, this
Well, I'm
is
asking you.
I don't know about that.
I've always had that same thought too, and I get the side of like leaving it natural, leaving those, the cycle of life or whatever to just run
Well, I
its
think
course.
It's called Mother Nature.
I think
Mother
they more or
Nature.
less
Called that.
have
But
to
I-
let the leave it be. But I think there was one case that I heard about or read or something where a polar bear got stuck in a hole, a little baby polar bear, and they actually did after like a day of it being stuck there, they lifted it out.
No, that's good.
Humans will intervene when they need to, I find, but I think a lot of when you see Planet Earth is just about education and more of like somebody who is never going to go to Africa or never going to go to the North Pole and see these things.
True.
To just be like, oh, that's what it's like. So somebody actually told me a few weeks ago, actually while I was at the Toronto Zoo visiting, now that you're seeing more animals and more laws being passed about certain animals not being in captivity, like the law that just passed about keeping cetaceans in captivity with Vancouver Aquarium was a big one.
Orca?
No, it
What's
was
a
about...
cetacean?
It's like a beluga. Is one of
Cetacean
them?
is, like belugas, dolphins, anything that's got teeth like
I
that.
thought an orca was kind of dolphin
It
family.
is. It's the largest species.
Yeah, this was like 3 days ago
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that you're seeing movements like this, you're actually witnessing a very interesting shift where now that bill has passed, you saw all of the media coverage that dead orca calf that was off the coast here, and the mother carried it for like 12 days. Now, people would not normally be concerned about that if we still had stuff in captivity, because captive comes first, if you haven't noticed. But now that that's dealt with, people are like, oh, this is happening in the wild,
good point.
actually. And it's now now that captive situations are being dealt with, they're starting to look at wild situations, which is actually quite
Where
interesting.
We should be paying our attention anyway.
Yeah, we should be, but it's only until something drastic like this happens, which happens all the time. People just don't see it, that where it actually catches light.
That's another thing. Well, like you say, like getting that proper attention on the things that are happening in the wild. I don't know if you guys have noticed it. Me personally, I've just noticed so much more footage of crazy events happening in the wild, like through Instagram or just social media, where it's like, yeah, I think a lot of people's fascination with, you know, animals in the wild and experiences you get in the wild are just amplifying more, just because maybe more people with phones and just documenting whatever they do. But
Totally.
I've just seen a lot of that stuff happening. So I think, you know, we are in the kind of moving towards the right direction, where before it was like the fur coat, you're wearing a fur coat, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like literally, like you say, you post a picture with an elephant or do this, and you do get backlash no matter what. Like, you know, yes, there are a lot of keyboard warriors out there, and that's a whole nother topic, but I think like more people are just kind of connecting with the kind of moral issues with that. And I don't know, maybe that is causing more people to chase that,
I
you
think
know,
people
wild
are
experience.
finally realizing that we're killing this planet.
Well, yeah, it's about time.
Yeah.
And that
time.
climate change is a thing.
Because get real, global warming is fake.
Okay, there.
Come on, the Earth is completely
Next podcast,
flat.
global warming debate.
Yeah, is the world flat or not?
You can bring in President Trump for that one.
You can offer some great insight.
Okay, we're going to play a small little game here. I'm going to ask you if this activity is ethical or unethical. Okay? And y'all get to decide, or just give me an opinion if it is ethical or not.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. First activity that people do: swimming, not swimming. Sorry, getting into a shark cage and waiting for a shark to like go at you. Is that? Do you think
Is that
that's
how they advertise those?
No, I don't know, but like you've
Get
seen
a shark to go at you.
Yeah, they put you in that cage. They lower you, and you're like, okay, I'll wait for a shark to swim around me.
Is it ethical?
I have an answer.
Oh,
Okay, so I guess again, it really depends who you're going with. Do your research. The biggest thing that we actually talked about this at work the other day is if you're going to do a shark diving experience, what type of sharks are you planning on seeing? How long is your tour? Do the sharks know? So we actually talked about if the same boat goes to the same spot with a group of people, does that shark now know the sound of the engine of the boat?
Classical conditioning.
Definitely they do.
Habituation for sure. Or if they're chumming the water, how does that affect pollution? So for instance, the Gulf of Mexico has a huge algae bloom, and chumming the water actually contributes to that, which kills so much marine life.
Mostly though fertilizers and all the other crap that
yeah.
leads into the Gulf. But
Yes.
yeah, I would say that's the bigger issue. But yes,
Yeah.
the chumming might have some
contributes to it, and it does draw them in. And how good is rotting food day after day after day?
Keeps
Yes,
getting
they-
worse. Every day it's a little worse.
Yeah, sometimes they do catch their own fresh food, and yes, they will forage and eat like a dead, floating, delicious whale carcass, but they won't eat it every day. And if we're feeding them crap every day, what does that say for the animal's health, digestive system? If they're expected to be fed and they're suddenly not, or they start associating people with food, that's when you start to get big problems. So I would say depends on.
Okay, you know what? We should change the way the game is
Yeah.
played.
Okay,
we should
yeah.
rank it on a 1 to 5
Yeah,
or 1 to 10 on
There we
how inhumane is
Or
it.
unethical,
Because I
yeah.
think realistically every single thing that you bring up
We'll have a catch-22
coming
Yeah.
to 2019 now,
Uh-huh.
everything is unethical.
right.
to a certain degree.
Yep.
in
These
one way or
headphones that
another.
we're wearing just
So,
causing so
maybe
much.
like rank it one
Yeah.
to 5.
Okay.
What's your
All right.
rank?
1 to
What's your
5.
rank?
1 being super ethical. Let's do it all the time, and 5 being super not ethical.
Getting in a cage.
I
with a shark.
would do it. So it's something I want to do.
Okay.
It's something, just sharks in general are one of my favorites. It's something I want to experience. So
Right.
I would do it in the right situation. So I'm going to say, we say 1 to 10?
1 to
One-
5.
1 to 5. I'm going to say 3. Like right dead slap
in
in
the
the middle.
Okay.
Wow. Fence sitter.
Fence sitter.
What about you?
I'm definitely more on the like. So 1 is a like
Super.
I would do it.
Yeah. Super
I mean, it's-
ethical. Or yeah.
I would say I'm more on like the 1-2 scale, and you made a lot of good points.
You've
about,
done it though, so
I've
you
done
know
it.
what to
I've done it,
expect.
and
I don't.
also like sharks. One of my favorite. I'm wearing shark socks right
You
now.
sure
Like Yeah, they're my favorite thing, and there is definitely, scientific studies that have showed that they do get used to your boats, they get used to the engine, you do mess with their natural feeding behaviors when, you draw them in with chumming or whatever it might be. So there is obviously that little bit of a negative that can happen. At the same time, too, is once again on the educational side for people to see sharks and experience a shark and be able to see one.
And not be scared
and
of it.
not be scared of it and that. And, there's a lot of experiences where you don't have to be in a cage. Like I've led tours where you're kneeling on the sand and you don't actually have to chum the water.
Yeah.
You literally just go down and you just see them swimming around, chilling back and forth. So, you don't always have to chum. It's just for a tour operator, sometimes they want to give you a bit more of a show, which once again, there's a little bit of ethics there. Do they need to do it or not? But there's so many factors. But at the end of the day, I think, it is something that, like, it's so hard to see sharks. And nowadays, especially nowadays, losing almost 100 million every single year, it's so rare that you actually get to see them. And that's some of the other reasons why they sprinkle some blood in the water, is so you can actually get that interaction where you can see them, which you then appreciate them, and then, like I said, hopefully take more positives out of it. So
If they
Is
do
that what chumming is?
chumming, just
Sprinkle blood?
Yeah, like throwing in. Sometimes they splash blood in. Sometimes they throw in fish guts or tuna heads or whatever it might be.
I think
depending on
in the
shark.
future, if you want to swim with sharks, they should take your own blood and like cut it open and then, put it
and
over.
they'd
Blood
probably
Brothers?
take your
Yeah,
hand
blood
off.
brothers. There we go.
Yeah.
Not blood brothers, 'cause then you'd have to cut the shark too.
Yeah.
All right, Parker, what do you think? 1 to 5.
Well, I would probably never take a full extremity like a 1 or a 5 because there's going to be controversy with that. But I would lean towards the 2, where I don't think it's all that bad. Sure, the boats and the pollution and the this and that, not great. But I don't think you're doing much harm to the sharks. I don't think, personally. Also, I haven't done my research on the subject yet. So vis-a-vis, I don't really have the
I've never been.
appropriate...
That's why I'm a 3. I think it would change if I had actually done something like that.
And I will say, like, the final thing to maybe like sway in the positive direction of it is like, the places that have, instilled shark tourism or whatever, where you can swim with sharks, dive with sharks, or do shark cage diving, have basically then, a lot of them have then put in the, just regulations where shark finning or shark fishing becomes illegal, because then it's a positive, contribution to the economy, whereas places that don't have any appreciation or need for live sharks, they just all get finned and hunted to basically extinction. So some of the places like Bahamas or that, where shark tourism has exploded, now it's like some of the healthiest reefs and places in the world because of having that kind of, access to that kind of interaction. So places that don't have any need or appreciation, they just get wiped out. So, yeah.
Okay, next
question.
Next.
I hope you didn't plan very many of these questions. They're going
I
slowly.
only got a few. The next ethical dilemma: should we ride donkeys in Greece? Riding donkeys in Greece. Okay,
I'll go first. I'll go first.
Hold up.
Greece.
The pretext to this is recently Greece has banned fat tourists from riding donkeys after animals are crippled by obese holidaymakers.
Okay.
So I read this, and I think the weight limit now is 100 kilograms. So if you're way more than that, you're not getting
they
up
have
on
a
that
scale,
scale.
the pre-donkey
220
riding
pounds.
scale.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good idea. You should. Like, some of those donkeys aren't huge donkeys.
donkeys
Yeah.
are.
I've ridden a donkey
Yeah.
in Greece.
That's
I've
why I
done
brought it up. Yeah.
However, back then also was like early stages of High on Life ever doing any travels. And even like the travel company, like we didn't do that on our own. That was the travel company that we went with that set us up with that. And times have changed. Like that company has also taken people to elephant sanctuaries where you ride elephants with harnesses on them and stuff. And they don't do that anymore. So they're changing as people are becoming more aware of what is right
How
and
long
wrong.
ago was that?
5 years.
Yeah, that's a big change in 5 years. Like switching.
Mm-hmm.
Like just took 5 years for social media and people to figure out that this is wrong.
What?
You know what
For
I
the
mean?
donkey thing, yeah. I mean, the elephants thing that
It'll always be a problem.
Yeah.
But like look at the transition.
I would say same exact explanation as the elephants. The donkeys are doing that against their will.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they have anything to worry about if they were roaming free on the island there instead of being in captivity by these humans. So no, it's not benefiting them whatsoever.
But how
I don't
about-
think they care about the fame that they're getting from all the Instagram exposure
But how
they're
about
getting.
Big Bertha when she wants to get up to Santorini?
Then
she can't
Big
get up.
Bertha can walk.
But it's over like 100 miles to get up to the top.
Well, then get an electric scooter
But they have stairs.
Yeah, I think that's no. You gotta walk
Donkey
yourself
climbing
if you want to go
stairs?
anywhere and not rely on a poor donkey to carry you up that place.
Now, back in the
I didn't know
olden
that was a
days,
thing,
donkeys
but-
were, mules, I guess, would carry bags for people because that was just they used them for helping with construction or railroads or whatever it was.
So mules
But
are bred to carry stuff. They're half horse, half donkey.
that's
Ooh,
correct.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, they're like
Man, you learn something
Is
new
a-
every day.
Is a
They're
mule
like-
the same as an ass, but the dad and mom are switched?
so an ass is actually the wild version. They come from Africa.
Nice. I seen a bunch of those.
I thought like a dad horse and a mom donkey was a ass, and then a mom horse and a dad donkey was a mule. I thought that, but I haven't done my research.
Okay. Let's get back to it. What's the score you give it? Let's give it the
I'm
score.
gonna call that honestly a 5.
Okay.
It's not
Yeah.
good. It's-
Not good. All
Say
right.
5 for me as
I
well.
would agree it's unnecessary.
Don't ride donkeys
If we're talking about
upstairs.
like the way America especially has changed in obesity, the biggest thing you can remotely think of and the poor donkeys is the fact that Disneyland had to restructure It's a Small World because it didn't hold up American sizes anymore.
Oh,
That
wow.
is hilarious.
Okay, I think I would rate that maybe like a 4. Like
You're heartless.
Well, the thing is, like, if I wanted to get up this, like,
Poor
to get up there.
Dominic, the donkey.
Yeah. Is that what they call him?
The Christmas
One of
song.
them.
Oh, I don't know that one. But
You knew Sally the camel, but you don't know Dominic the donkey.
I don't know where are all these Canadian things coming from? I'm not sure.
Clifford the camel.
Clifford.
Yeah, no, I just made that
Okay,
up.
what about riding camels in the desert? 1 to 5.
Riley, you go first.
Yeah, Rylee, you go first.
Okay, so last year my mom and I actually looked at booking a trip to Morocco and camel riding from one town to another in the desert was part of this tour, like this whole trip planned. And the only way I would remotely say that something like this is okay and possible is the fact that we're going to go back to dromedary camels are a domestic species. They haven't been seen in the wild in over 2,000 years. They're bred and made just like horses to be pack animals, to be ridden. That is their purpose. They even use them for milk. But there is only one way to get through sand like that, and camels are built for that. That is what they're built for. Their feet, their joints, the way they take fat and turn it into water, like their whole system.
Isn't there dung used for fire?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it is,
Their
yeah.
whole thing, like their
So as long as
thing.
it's a dromedary camel. then it-
dromedary. Well, they're from
From
Africa.
from Andromeda.
The Bactrian camels are from like Mongolia.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they're built for, right?
Okay,
It'd be like
so-
taking a horse through the Colorado mountains.
Hey Riley, 1 to 5, riding a camel from town to town in Morocco.
Would I do it? Yeah, probably.
1 to 5. I said.
And one is like yes.
One
I'd
is
say
Yes
two.
is ethical,
one is
yeah.
humane.
Okay,
I
what
would
is
say
ethical?
I would say
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
2.
Okay.
I say 2 as well.
Ooh.
1.9.
Ooh. I'm gonna go 1.75.
Bob.
Okay, I'm
$1
gonna go
Bob.
1.75.
Josh, I got a good one for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Recently, they have started tours where a small group of people can carry the camel from town to town to give that camel a break, but still let it experience the commute. Would you take part in that? Is that humane? Because you would be carrying this camel against its will.
Against
'Cause
its
it wants
will?
to walk.
It wants to walk.
Yeah.
You're carrying
Okay,
it.
well,
Well,
I
it's
would-
used to walking. Maybe it's classical
I'm gonna say
conditioning.
that's a 4.5. I'm not gonna do
Inhumane to carry this
that. No.
camel?
No. Yeah, I would say it's inhumane.
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
5.
what?
Solid
What
5.
end of the camel do you get to hold? That's what I
No, I-
work with them. I want to know.
No, it's like Aladdin. You got people like carrying two sticks with like a platform on
it's
it.
like
So
Right.
the camel's
full
just
on.
chilling on like a rug.
Wait. Is
Okay.
this real, Parker, or is this one of these like hypothetical like things? That
Pretty
you
sure.
Very,
hypothetical.
very hypothetical.
Pretty
I
sure it's
nearly fell
hypothetical.
for that. Why do I keep doing this?
Because you are one of those gullible types.
Okay.
What else you got on that list there?
All right. Here's another one. Owning goldfish.
Pop quiz. How long does a goldfish live for?
Okay,
Not very
here's
long.
my story. When I was younger, I was probably like 6 or 7. I went to a house in Asia. Okay, this is Asia, so like animal rights there are kind of like not really up to date. They're different.
Very.
So like I said to my mom, I want a couple of goldfish. And then my parents went to the fish shop. They came home with like 10 of them. And we didn't really know anything about like, oh shit, they need air or like they need this bubble thingy. And so we had like this tank of like 10 goldfish.
Just dying.
And then just dying. And then by day 3, there was like 2 left. And then I was like, oh, I guess we're not keeping these goldfish anymore, Mom.
Terrible. Terrible.
Okay.
I'm sorry, goldfish community. I'm sorry.
How old do you think a goldfish can live for? Taken care of properly.
I think that a goldfish can live for 2.5 years. More? Okay. 4 years.
Oh,
20
really?
years?
8 years.
Higher than 20.
Higher than
Whoa,
20?
no way.
Whoa. GTFO.
Yeah, they can live between 40 and 50 years old if taken care of properly. So
Are
that
there-
being said, it's another pet
Is that
industry.
in the
thing.
wild? They live
No,
that
I have
long,
I
or
have
is somebody actually
koi that are
shown?
like that can like,
Goldfish, not koi.
but it's the same carp like
Oh,
species.
you didn't mention
It's a magic
that.
carp.
Yeah, koi's are
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
So what number would you give that? Like for like,
having a pet goldfish.
or even, or if just,
Honestly, I've worked in the pet industry as well for probably close to 12 years, and it's a good starter pet if you're not looking to commit to like a rabbit or a guinea pig or even a gerbil. Like getting a goldfish or even a betta that don't live like more than, my mom had a betta that lived like 5 years. I was like, how'd you keep that alive? Again, it's a great starter animal if you want one. Especially with younger kids, it actually teaches them when they don't survive. It's a good lesson about life and death.
Goldfish's life is less important
I'm
than
not
another
saying
animal.
that. I'm saying it's a good starter pet. They're lower maintenance than a lot of other ones. So
right. That's like a starter Pokemon kind of.
yeah, get a Pikachu.
All I
Yeah.
can do is splash.
Yeah, it's
I
not
would
like.
say
yeah.
for the fish tank thing, although I was very tempted to buy one at one point because I love fish and I like watching them.
That's right.
I prefer to watch them in the ocean. And
Ooh.
I've
I would never
never
have.
brought myself to buy one of those fish tanks, even when I go to people's house and they have one, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like watching it. Like,
Saltwater
that nice
tank
fish
is
tank.
like-
But I don't know. For me, that's like where they belong. And it's one of those things where those fish could swim and explore all these reefs and blah, blah, blah,
tell
blah,
me
blah.
last time you saw a goldfish in the wild.
Just yesterday.
Where?
Just swimming at English Bay and I saw this goldfish with three eyes. And
Oh my God.
yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, that's just me personally. But, I think like anything, it's catch-22. And as long as you're not tapping on the tank and maybe you actually take care of it and give it air and like.
Oh, hey,
other
man, I'm
things,
sorry.
then maybe
we didn't,
it's fine,
We didn't
but-
have the internet back then.
Some
Or-
of my thoughts would be how enjoyable is that goldfish's life in captivity at the pet store
Versus-
nonstop until it's purchased and taken to
Yeah.
somebody's home.
Exactly.
But maybe
They're
it
like-
enjoys that it's around other fish nonstop and that it gets to see different people every day and it's a social goldfish. But then it's also got a memory span of like 7 seconds or something.
You're giving it a lot of credit.
Apparently, actually, goldfish memory is not as bad as people claim.
Yeah, it's 9 seconds.
No,
And
but
just
like
think of
every
Nemo.
24
Imagine
hours,
Nemo.
it's like, oh, look, my castle. And then like a
true.
day later, it's like, oh, look, a castle.
True.
Oh, look, I can even identify what a castle is.
Yeah. There are very few freshwater fish that actually facially recognize
I
people.
was going to say the freshwater debate with the tank is a whole different thing than the saltwater.
Saltwater is a
'Cause
lifestyle.
That's bad.
That's
though,
all
to
you
take
do.
those saltwater
Okay.
fish off.
So let's get a quick number
Yeah.
from all of you, the 3 of you.
Having a goldfish as a pet. 2. 1 to 2.
I've had one and I'd never do it again. So
Yeah, but is
For-
it
for-
inhumane or is it because you don't want to do it?
Well, you can go
I
off
wouldn't
of your...
say it-
Ethical reasons.
Yeah.
I wouldn't-
5.
Okay, good. You good? Noted.
Yeah, I would say like 3 because you could have the same argument with somebody and their like pet cat.
Okay.
So
All right, here's another one. Ethical, unethical. Oh, right, sorry. 1 to 5. Ethical or unethical? Watching bullfights.
Watching bullfights? Like paying to go?
Yeah. Or going to see like cockfighting. Chicken fighting.
5.
5.
I would say on the 5 scale on that
Okay.
one. I mean, well, bullfighting and chicken fighting are kind of a bit different.
Or
They
animal
are-
fighting.
I think bull and chicken fighting is very different, actually.
Bullfighting, I would say on the 5 scale, even though, yeah, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of tradition and whatever, but at the end of the day, you're torturing an animal for amusement.
Right.
And yeah, I would say it's no bueno.
Parker, what do you think?
I would get into some discussion about this. Now, the way a traditional bullfight is, where the bull chases you around for a bit and then you kill it, yeah, very inhumane, and I don't support that because a bull is an animal, and I love animals, just about all of them. Cockfights are horrible because they like attach weaponry to their talons, and like it's ugly, and it's not a clean death either. Usually, it's like a slow, torturous.
They put poison on the claws so that
I don't think. Do they? What?
Why? I heard about that.
Sometimes they do, but I think other times they don't because they actually sell the chickens sometimes afterwards, and people buy them and eat them. Like they just shop for a bird.
Here's a maybe this is horrifying to you guys. Maybe this is on the Super 5 unethical. But when I was in the Philippines, and this is where I'm from, like racially, okay, and so like I kind of grew up around like Filipino not traditions, but like parents and all that stuff. When I went back to the Philippines last year, on TV, there's a channel dedicated just for cockfighting. Wow. I'm not even joking. And the ads are all about like, feed your chicken this best rice, or feed your
fighter
chicken
rice.
Yeah, fighter rice. And these are the nutrients that they will get strong. And it's insane. It was like, and these fights are like 10, 20, 30 seconds. And what they do, like what the ref does, they come out to like this, like the arena, and he'll hold the two chickens or whatever, and then he'll bump their heads together to like get them agitated with each other.
I've been to one cockfight before in Peru, and it's like a family event. Like people go with their kids and they have like a night out doing this. And yeah, their technique is they pick up the chicken, they show their chicken, the winning chicken to the audience, everyone cheers. Then they blow in the chicken's butt for some reason. It gets them like fired.
Gets them agitated, up.
And then they put their faces near each other, and so they just start to like they see their enemy and they start
go bickery.
Yeah, start attacking at each other, and then they put them in their spots and let them go, and then they run and start fighting and stuff. It's super inhumane, and I was grossed out. I had a tough time watching it because like. It's one thing just watching somebody like butcher it to eat it or something, but it's another to see them like slowly being injured. More and more and more injured until they like fight to the death. Like it's rough.
It's pretty messed up.
Okay, so
5.
You give it a 5? 5? All 5s? Oh man, I'm having a hard time here because it was from like my so-called culture, and I mean I really feel like it's super damaging to I don't think it's good, but because I have like a cultural attachment, I think I'm going to give it a 4. Yeah, I still think it's bad, but I think like there's all this stuff that might take some time to get over, like the cultural aspect. So I would say.
Okay, I've got one though.
Yeah.
Bullfighting without the killing. So just going into the ring with the bull and letting it chase you.
Sounds like a
rodeo. Like in rodeos?
Kind of like in rodeos, but realistically, what I'm bringing up is the fact that when we were in Spain with High on Life, they took us to do bull fighting, and they were like bulls in training for bullfighting. It's what they do there. It's total traditional, everything. They've been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we went in the ring just to try to run away from the bull. So like, it could be looked at as we're tormenting this bull by making it chase us around, but at the same time, it's like, are we really tormenting it that much? Because we're not chasing it or scaring it. It's trying to fuck us up. Oh, pardon me. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. It's trying to attack us. So in that sense, I don't think it's as bad, but obviously like we got a ton of flack from it because people are like, oh, well, did you cut the bull's neck off too? And it's like, well, no, we didn't do any of that. We're not interested in that. And that didn't happen to the bull afterwards either when we were there. However, it's still tormenting in a sense because, we're in a ring with it. So what's your take?
Rylee's getting her guns ready.
Yeah.
Pull the gun out and shoot him already.
Do you think that animal's so frustrated?
Oh my God. Bombs.
Because we have the color red.
A lot of the time, color has nothing to do with it. You're taking a young animal that is ready to mate, who probably won't mate. It's completely sexually frustrated. It's testosterone with a bull. That's why it's called a bull. Just like a bull shark is through the roof, and now you've just stuck 4 individuals in its area.
One at a time.
One at a time.
So is this what they do? Like
So are we harming this bull?
No,
by-
but it's frustrating for the animal, because what would you do if this dude just came into your house and was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then you're like, "Get the fuck out."
And I chased him around and couldn't get him, and then he left. I would not like that. You're right. But I wouldn't the next. I mean, like a week later, I'd be over it for life. I'd be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but this is that
But this is
animal's
an
life.
and we're putting it through like 1 or 2 or 3 a week or 4 times a week.
Until its final destination.
Okay, wait. So you're saying that it's like sexually frustrated, or like they can't mate, so like they just leave him like blue balling the whole time?
Well, that's the whole point of a bull. That's why they're frustrated. What do you think bull riding is? Why do you think the animals don't want to be ridden? They don't want to have a noose tied around their back end, which they're trying to kick off 24/7.
It's definitely an interesting perspective.
I never heard of this perspective. Very interesting. Yeah.
Well, how do you get an animal to behave like that?
I don't know.
Wow.
By completely segregating it from all natural instinct. Go sit in a jail cell for a year and then tell me
Not
if you're the
again.
same person. Oh yeah, we won't get into that one.
That's
a good point.
Those are
That's a
very
good
good
point.
point. Like, you know what? Like, I would say my third eye for animal care has been opened for sure.
Well, how much interaction do you think that bull gets with other animals?
Well, when we saw what we saw, they were in a stable with other bulls, and they
Just
all hung
other
out.
bulls.
They all hung out together. Yeah. Well, I didn't see if they were female
There
or male
wouldn't
or
be any
what.
females.
Oh
there.
my gosh, that's so funny.
But it was like it's a bull farm, and so when we got there, we drove around the backyard, if you will, and it was just this huge open space. Like I didn't see any enclosures around it. Like it was as far as you could see,
Yeah.
They were,
and
like,
it was
in the
just
prairies
terrain.
and
And
that,
they were just
Yeah.
hanging out, and there's tons of bulls everywhere. And they might have been cows too. I didn't look at male or female or whatever. I don't think they all had horns, but it was a bull farm, if you will. So tons of these creatures there. And then when we went into the house area, then there were bulls in the bull pen, and they were all hanging out together, and that's where they get their feeding or their whatever. And like, I don't know, it's not antisocial, but anyways, it was just like it didn't seem as bad for us as the keyboard warriors made us feel.
I'm sure there is worse situations, but it's still not one I would partake in, so I'm going to say 5.
If it makes you feel any better, the bull broke my pinky. So
Yeah.
I do
bulls
feel better.
got a lick on humans.
Kenzo, what number are you going to give it?
Honestly, after hearing that whole little educational spiel, I
Spiel.
do like you were saying, I do kind of wrestle with, was that good, was that bad? I mean, we didn't kill it and blah 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 and all that stuff. I mean, more swaying towards the 5, but I would say like
What did the bull benefit from you?
It got to chase around a smaller.
I feel like we did
inferior
get some,
creature.
like
Got
it was
some
like
exercise?
It was like playing football. We
Yeah.
went out, we had a good time.
Death
we
football?
high-fived, and then no, we didn't harm it. But I don't know. I'm not a bull expert, so I can't fully comment on like what did the bull get, because maybe it got a good exercise for the day, and then it ate some food and chilled with its other bull friends, and still could be living a nice, happy life today out on the prairies in Spain. So I don't know, but I'll say save 3 on the fence.
Yeah,
3,
realistically, like we know it's not humane, and like PETA would be against it, and people would protest it for sure. However, from what we saw and experienced, we don't think it was really any more inhumane than riding a horse or something. Like
Yeah.
sure, it doesn't want that, I guess, per se, but like we didn't cause it any harm or any injury or any like discomfort, other than maybe some frustration that it got to run around and get it out. I don't know. Anyways, that's all. I'm kind of sitting on like a 2-3.
Ooh, I think I'm going to, after hearing what she said, I think I'm going to go with a 4. Yeah. Man, you really taught us a lot today, I would say.
Yeah, it's good chats. Good chats. Anything else on the docket?
Well, we got tons. She sent us this like 8-page document. I think we're gonna
She
have to-
did her research.
She did.
Ben was like, "This is what you need to talk about." I was like, "Okay."
It's a hot
we got.
topic.
She knew she was going to be on camera with 3
Yeah.
animals.
Do your research when you go on vacation.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah, reduce, reuse, recycle, and the new R, repurpose. Anything you possibly can. We only have one Earth. We don't want to kill it.
It's already too late.
No, never
No.
too late, never
Anybody
too
can
late.
have that view, but it takes a special person to,
If you have time, your local rescue, your local SPCA, Greater Vancouver Zoo, Vancouver Aquarium, Marine Mammal Rescue, anything like that always needs volunteers. If you are loaded and have extra funds, donate. If you're going on vacation,
Sure.
yeah, volunteer somewhere. Sea turtles.
Okay.
Reduce your plastic single-use consumption.
That's right.
Straws.
Down with straws.
Down with straws, up with not straws. So unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. Please leave us a comment if you like what we talked about today, and if you want to ask any questions about animals or ethical animal exercises or activities. Just
Animal exercise.
no. Whatever we call it, just leave it in the comments below. We will get to your questions as soon as we can. We will have videos out Sunday, I believe, or Sunday,
Every other
Wednesday. We're
Sunday,
hoping to
fun
get
day.
keep to that.
Internet.
Yeah. So that's it for all of us here. Thanks for watching.